Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to the Dylan Quirk GA grounds here in Clonolty this evening. We're going to have a look back, first of all, at the matches last weekend. Then we're going to look ahead to this weekend's Munster Senior Hurling Championship matches. John O'Shea, briefly look back.
Yeah, Stevie, I suppose going into last Sunday's games there, all five counties in Munster were in with a chance of getting to a Munster final and getting to the All-Ireland series, and everything was to play for. First up we had Waterford down in Ennis there, a game that I fancied. I thought, gave Waterford a good chance going into it because I felt that they had to, do something about it. They got off to a very bad start there. Conceded two very, very soft goals, in my opinion, there in the first half there. Missing Prunty at full back, and it's probably them. The concession of those two goals probably showed how much of a loss he was, and I think Mike said it there last week that he was going to be a huge loss. Fitzgerald didn't slot into it there as probably, I suppose, inexperienced in that position, but anyway they fought back, and eventually there was only one score in it in the finish, and Clare got through, got their 4 points on the board, so that takes it up into next week. But then we were in Thurles, and another knockout game. So, Francis there might give you something on that.
Yeah, I suppose, look, Thurles was a bit disappointing on Sunday. It was a bit of a sobering defeat for a finish. We looked okay, I suppose, in the first half, but the warning signs were there. We hit a lot of aimless ball at times. Rob Downey collected an awful lot of loose ball. He's a bit like Paddy Maher in his heyday, like the way he just ran around that half back line and kind of hoovered up an awful lot of ball, and we couldn't seem to find a way around him at times. And I suppose Cork were running at us in the first half as well, caused a bit of problems that we got away with to a degree. Hogan pulled off a good save, and eventually just before half time we were caught. They ran through us for the goal, and I suppose all didn't seem lost at the start of the second half, but once we conceded those 2 quick goals, it just seemed to be game over, and Connolly getting a hat-trick, it just seemed to suck the life out of us, and we struggled to find another plan or a plan B to really come up with any answers. We seemed to go down an awful lot of blind alleys as well. There was players looking up at times and they'd no one to play it into, or if they did, they were trying to pass, it just seemed to get blocked down, or that nothing seemed to work, and we just really lost all focus as the game went on. It was very disappointing to watch, and I think for a finish we were trying to hit points, just trying to maybe get the scoreboard moving again, and even the radar started to go at that stage. Now, in fairness to Cork, they played a great game, and they really ran at us and attacked us physically as well. And I suppose one noticeable factor in a lot of the game was the amount of players they had over each time. If there was one tip player, there was nearly 3 around him again, and their fitness levels, I suppose, look, the drive was there from the week before. They'd beaten the All-Ireland champions, and they really brought that hunger, and the fans brought that hunger as well to them, to the game, and I suppose it was a huge help on the day.
Okay, I'm going to go to Michael McCarthy on that game as well. Michael, it was a very disappointing show from Tipperary.
Yes, Stevie, it certainly was. I think all round. I mean, even from the start of the day, if you walked up through the square in Thurles, it was a sea of red, and then you got into the stadium, and both terraces were a sea of red. Yeah, I don't know, maybe
that was a disappointment as well from the fan side.
Absolutely, and it was probably telegraphed from maybe halfway through the Limerick game, because you were kind of saying Cork were in with a right chance, and then they went on and won it, and they started snapping up tickets for the following weekend. And I suppose disappointing from the Tip fans, all right, and I suppose disappointing for the players to come out and see that sea of red. But I mean, we got off to a great start. Won the throw in, an unbelievable ball from Noel McGrath that ended up with Jake Morris tapping into the net, and that was the start you wanted. And maybe a bit unfortunate, maybe a couple of minutes later, that we didn't get a black card penalty. It just ended up in a yellow card. I think it was. I thought we should have got the penalty and then the black card, which had been Cork were down to 14, and we would have been hopefully 2 goals to a point ahead at that stage, and that would have been even more belief. But anyway, it wasn't to be, and maybe a while later when Ronan got his yellow card, that could have been equalled up at 14 apiece. So look, it swings and roundabouts with decisions like that. But for 30 minutes we were very much in the game. Obviously we were ahead, but after that I think it was 4-17 to 9 points from 30 minutes to the end of the game, and that's, I suppose that's
what would you be looking at, Michael, when you look back at it? What would you put that down to? Would you put it down to heads dropping, and if they were, why?
Well, I suppose the why is the question that the whole county is asking, and Liam Cahill is asking. But it's the second time, I suppose, in 3 games that it's happened. Gillane, if you remember, against Limerick, we weren't going too bad, and Gillane put one in over the goalkeeper's head, and our head seemed to drop. Jason Ford had a free kind of on the 21. He hit it very high, and it went to Hawkeye when he should have just tapped, blasted it over the black spot. I don't know why he hit it so high, but that came back as a kneel, and Cork went straight down the field, and Alan Connolly got a ball out on the line, and the defence just seemed to part. I think Conor Bowe and Owen Connolly were out there, and maybe should have just bundled him out over the line. And look, that's easy to say now, but it didn't look like there was any danger. And next thing he went, and I think you said you were talking about him on the radio, Stevie, on Saturday, and said he hadn't scored a goal in 2 games, and maybe he was listening, but he finished the game with 3. But our inability to respond after conceding a goal is very, very worrying, and the heart seemed to go out of us, and we were a beaten docket a long way from the end of the game, and I don't know how you change that around for this weekend. And Liam Cahill spoke, and he spoke like a guy that was willing to look at what needed to be fixed and so on. But if we put in a very, very lacklustre performance on Sunday, serious questions would have to be asked, I'd imagine.
Do you think we have the players to compete now at this level?
Well, we had the players to compete for 30 minutes, and I don't know why we didn't carry it on. But like, Noel McGrath was still one of our better performers, and Noel will be 33, 34 towards the end of this year. Bonner Maher came on again. But like, other than that, Cathal Barrett is probably pushing 30. He got an injury, and like he made a mistake was that the second goal or the second goal, and like, I don't know why the ball was poked out to him. He was signalling to come off at that stage, and should have been whipped, and straight away he was taken.
It was a strange move that he wasn't taken.
Yeah, I don't know what none of us will know what the conversation was.
That the move wasn't made.
Yeah, that the move wasn't made. What the conversation was when the doctor went into him, because straight away he turned and the puck out was given to him, and he was dispossessed, and it was in the back of the net, which was. And again, that was another nail in the coffin. But I think we looked beaten at that stage. Look, I think they were meeting up Monday to try and get ready for this weekend. We saw Waterford last year had lost 3 in a row, and came back with that performance against Tip in round 4, or in their game 4. So I think we need something similar just to give the county a lift.
Okay, so we're going to have a look now at this coming Sunday. Both games are at 4 p.m. Let's have a look at Limerick and Waterford first. Yeah,
I suppose this is the last game, and Waterford, if they beat Limerick, could knock Limerick out, depending on the result of the other game. So there's lots of permutations going around. But I suppose if you look back to the end of the game in Ennis, Davy was obviously very animated on the field. He felt they were hard done by, and no one better than Davy to get a cause to lift the team. They'll be going into Limerick at the weekend, and all they have heard all week is that everybody is against them, and they have to go to Limerick. I think they'll give it a right rattle. I don't think they'll come out on the right side of it at the end of it, because I think Limerick during the
response there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Limerick during the Cork game looked like they were back to their best. They had stuttered a bit in the start of the 2 previous games against Clare and Tip, but they looked on it from the start down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So look, I think it'll be an interesting game. Some very good performers for Waterford at the weekend. Tadhg de Burka looked really back to his best. Jamie Byrne had a super second half. They showed a lot of character to get back. Ian Galvin and Peter Duggan had put Clare 3 points ahead. They went down the field. Patrick Fitzgerald gets fouled in the box, and Shane Bennett dispatches the penalty. And I think maybe they were harshly done by. He could have blown it up at that stage. And then Tony Kelly got a long range free which went out for the 65, and the 65 that caused all the controversy, I suppose. And look,
again.
as I said, I think Waterford will be coming to Limerick with a cause. I think they'll give it a right rattle. Again, if we're going into matchups, where will Cian Lynch be playing? Taig de Borca, as we said, he had a great game, but he's a sitting back centre back, and if Lynch could get on a lot of ball, and I think that's where he's most effective from Limerick, is that centre forward.
I was going to ask you about the 40. Do you think that could be possibly his better position than midfield?
Yeah, I think that's where he does a lot of his damage, because he gets a lot of free space in that role. He comes out into the middle field, he can pick up ball. A lot of the centre backs, as we've said over the last couple of weeks, they like to sit kind of on the edge of the D, protect the full back line. So there is space there, and Cian Lynch is one of the best hurlers in the country, and he's able to exploit that, and he pulls the strings for Limerick.
Yeah, and they don't get Hurler of the Year for nothing either.
That's
Francis,
for sure.
We might maybe just go over to your own side, and the Limerick team that John Kiley is going to pick, normally there's no tinkering with the team, he goes with it.
Yeah, it is very rare he changes up too much. I think from the starting 15, I suppose Flanagan came in the last day for Peter Casey. Unfortunately, he got injured against Tipperary. Flanagan had a major impact on the game. Look, Cork will probably blame that some of the goals he got were down to more their mistakes than Flanagan, but Flanagan got into the space, he got into the right position, he got the scores. Look, I suppose there's a few things, I suppose, looking at this Limerick team from the last day. Cork got into their faces at times, and they really put them off their stride. We've seen that before when teams push up on Limerick, that they don't really like it. They like to dictate the way the game is played and force teams to play on their terms. Cork didn't really go for that, and I suppose the other side of that as well is Limerick came back right from being 11 points down below Páirc Uí Chaoimh tonight, and they went, was it 3 or 4 points up, but they were still beaten at the end of it. Something that really hasn't happened this Limerick team up to now. Generally, when they come back from that much of a deficit, they push on, they stay on, and they get the points. The Clare game was different last year. It was tight throughout, and Clare probably just snuck it for a finish. But this was different, and I suppose the Limerick half back line was tested a lot the last day. Dermot Burns and Declan Hannon were really tested a lot, and there was a lot of errors found that Cork decided to go very direct. They went long, they bypassed the half back line then at times as well, and that's often been seen as Limerick's strength, the half back line, and they were really damaged there from that side of it. And I suppose going on to Sunday, what can Waterford bring to change all that? And I suppose the big thing for Waterford this year is they seem to be playing with a little bit more of abandonment. Now, the ARC talks as Prunty isn't going to make the starting 15 on Sunday. He's going to be a huge loss, as Mike said. I think Dan Shannon was on about him there today. He reckons they would have beaten Clare, they wouldn't have conceded those goals if Prunty was there. There's a good chance Ian Montgomery, who didn't start the last day, isn't going to start either. I think Patrick Curran is a doubt as well, and Darragh Lyons is now a doubt. So look, the injuries are piling up for Waterford, but at the same time there is a chance there to get to a Munster final, which would be huge for Waterford in terms of where they've been the last few years. It would also be huge to knock out the All-Ireland champions, but I suppose that's only secondary. For Waterford, I suppose the first aim is to get out of Munster. That has to be their first aim. You can't aim just for the draw. A draw will be sufficient probably to get them out of there. You can imagine, I think Clare will beat Tipperary. So it depends really, what Waterford can do to really upset him, and can they keep that running game going and keep getting the likes of Mikey Kiley, the Bennett's. I suppose Desi Hutchinson has been probably maybe more from frees this year as well, but can they make use of every ball they get on the day? And I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Waterford. I said last week I reckon that Waterford would probably attack one of these games and go all out to win it. They probably did do that with the Clare game, it just fell short. But if they're to get out of Munster, they have to really go all out against Limerick on Sunday and come up again like they did against Clare, continually respond. But I suppose if they can try and get ahead of the All-Ireland champions and try and get put doubt in Limerick's minds, I think that seems to be a key thing for anyone that wants to take on Limerick and has success against Limerick. is putting doubt in some of the players' minds, and maybe the confidence slips a little in with Limerick.
John O'Shea, would you start Diarmuid Burns or would you replace him from the very start entirely?
Wing back. I'd start him, like, you know. I mean,
even though his form is not
good, but
be.
I think he definitely his form from freeze
it's
all the
strange
year.
Because normally he's very
you know.
consistent.
But look,
isn't
we said that about Flanagan. I think was it 2 weeks ago. We said it about Flanagan that he wasn't going well. I said it. I definitely said it anyway. And what did he do last week? You know, at the last day, he gets 3 goals and a pint. You know, these guys, like, you know, they'll pop up. We said it about Connolly last week. I think I said it last Saturday morning, Mike. I said he hasn't got. I hope he doesn't start scoring goals tomorrow. And he came out with 3 again. So these lads, like, when they have that thing, like I think the last day against Cork, Burns in the second half, he hit a couple of long range ones after missing some early on. Now he has missed more this campaign than what he, you know, by his own standards, from a long range freeze and even long. But I think they'll start him. You know, they won't. That's my opinion. They won't leave it. Look at Waterford.
Would you give Waterford a good chance?
Look at. I felt Waterford would beat Clare last week. I think I said that last week because I said 'twas, you know, they had to win one of the games, and I felt that the Clare game was probably the one to win. That I said it, that I didn't think they'd beat Limerick down in the Gaelic grounds.
Yeah.
That opinion hasn't changed. I think, you know, while they will push them all the way, and it is the equivalent of a Munster semi-final, but there are still 4 teams in Munster battling it out for 3 places, and that's only one of the games. But I still think, because, you know, I don't think we can be talking about the draw, because that's something that happened. Because, like, put it this way, if Limerick are gone and beaten by Waterford or something, they're gone, in my opinion. Out of Munster, out of the All-Ireland, season over. And, like, I don't think, you know, in their home back garden, that's not going to happen to Limerick on Sunday, in my opinion.
Okay. Let's move on to the next game.
Yeah, the next game, as the second game at 4 o'clock. Both games are at the same time. Look at, we've had post-mortems and every sort of mortem on the game last Sunday in Thurles against Cork. Cork are out of it. As I said, there's 4 teams left. There's 1 team going to be out of it. Or the second team is going to be out of it Sunday evening at 20-6. But I think Clare have to win to guarantee themselves, because if things go, you know.
But Tipperary are a wounded animal at the moment.
They are a wounded animal. There's no doubt about that. And we saw that. Look, they came out after going down by 15 to Limerick. There, they came out against Waterford. Now, okay, we had.
But will they be able to lift it against the banner? That's the big question.
They might lift it for a while, but will they continue it for 75 minutes? That's the whole thing. Or are they capable of it now? Because look, I think the last day, the first half, probably Cork were affected a small bit by the rigours of the Sunday before against Limerick, and it probably took them that little bit of a while to get up to the pitch of the game, get up to where they wanted to be. Now Hogan made some save early on, and like I think that was a vital save, because I think if Cork had got that goal early on, I think they would probably have pushed on more. So while in the first half there, we kept with him, with Cork, and we went ahead and we led them by a pint or 2, but then the whole thing, just coming up to half time, the vital time where all these good teams will hit you, are liable to hit you, and Cork done it again, and Connolly got in for his goal. He got in between, I think he got in between, who was it? O'Mara was it? Was chasing him, and I think Owen Connolly came across, and he sort of he overrun the tackle, and he buried it, and all of a sudden then 3 pints down, coming up to half time, a vital time to get and it set Cork up for the second half. Now Clare on Sunday, Clare probably owes Tip in their own mind that beating from last year in the round 1 below in Ennis, where they didn't perform, and it was their only game that they were beaten in last year, and they came on. Now, some people will say, oh, maybe Clare, they don't fancy another Munster final. But the thing about it is, if they're going to progress, I think, they have to be in a Munster final, because they're going to have to be a tip to be sure. You don't know the way how things pan out. But I can't see Tip, as much as I'd love them to see a kick at the dying dog, like, you know what I mean? That like Tip are out of it, they have nothing to play for, only county pride, and these lads have pride, and they will shove it up to Clare. But will it be good enough? I don't think it will be.
Francis, I know we're trying to preview this game as much as we can, but it's very difficult to preview a team that's already out of the championship. So now it is time to maybe give others a chance, yeah?
It possibly is all right. The morale seems to be very low in the team. And as you're saying, trying to preview it is very hard. It's hard to know. Like, you can't go wholesale changes either, because if you put in, all youth as well, you leave yourself open to being, completely annihilated too. I don't know, do Tipperary do the whole wounded animal thing? It's going to be very hard for them to pick up the confidence, I think. Like, I suppose, I know Waterford last games last year, but they seem to have that bit more. I don't know, I think we went flat last year against Waterford to a degree as well, and Waterford probably came in with more of a, they had nothing to play for. I don't think Tipperary will come up to those heights on Sunday. I think just looking at the game and our demeanour the last day, especially in the second half, we just struggled to find any groove. We struggled for any kind of a game plan, and we struggled for that game plan, I think, since that Waterford defeat last year. We struggled for a plan B or a plan C. Like, we don't seem to have, I don't know, not an idea, but I don't know, are the players confident in what we're the system we're trying to play? And I mean, you go back to Limerick. You mentioned Limerick there as a case in point. We still haven't come up with a system like that would some way take on, or I suppose stop Limerick at this stage. Like, and that's been a worry for me as well, that we got to draw at them last year, probably playing them a lot at their own game, trying to match them, but we still haven't come up with anything that takes them on. Cork tried something different the last day. Like, well, I said it last week, I like to see this Tipperary team try something different, but maybe a bit more direct running like Cork, or maybe playing a bit more direct. I mean, you look at the last day against Cork again, at times we had a one-on-one inside again, but we were struggling to get the ball in there. The cohesion when it comes up to the forwards, we seem to be very slow, or we seem to be still taking that extra hand pass, different things like that I'm struggling just to see where we can just suddenly pick up the form. Like, the Waterford game now, in hindsight, in between the two games between Limerick and Cork, just looks like a performance out of heart, but it doesn't seem to be the norm. Like, we struggled since the Waterford game last year, the Galway game. There was at times in the league we looked as if we were heading down the right road, and at times we looked sluggish. But the league, you have to take the form as it goes, because we don't know what kind of block of work players are doing. But the collapse against Clare in the league semi-final, to me that was a warning point. They're right, we had 5 weeks to change it and really come out of the dressing rooms hopping against Limerick, and we didn't to a degree. I think we still look very sluggish. We look sluggish again on Sunday evening last, and there still seems to be no explanation why. We can't seem to find a structure, a game plan. We can't seem to find our own ideas of trying to impose our own game on teams.
Well, I suppose all answers will be, or all questions I should say, will be answered on this coming Sunday evening at about 5:30, 20 to 6. If I could just briefly go back to Michael McCarthy for one moment. Michael, on a brighter note, we are the Munster Minor Hurling Champions.
Yeah, super win there on Monday evening, Stevie, in the Gaelic grounds. A couple of big performances from Ewan Murray and Stephen Tobin up front. Yeah, it's great. It really lifted it, and they look like a team.
What would that do for the county, Mike?
Well, I suppose everyone was dejected, and it gives you a bit of hope that there is players coming behind this this team, and we have the 20s in the final this Friday as well. So underage, we seem to be doing a good bit. The Celtic Challenge teams, we had 2 teams in that, and they played each other in the semi-final. So I think it's Tipperary Gold. They're playing Kilkenny in that final this Saturday. So I mean, that means that about 70 guys that are 17 years or under were playing in All Ireland finals or Munster finals, and that bodes well for the future. But it was great for James Woodlock. He seems to have a team that are really playing for him. You could see that camaraderie at the end if you looked at any of the videos and the interviews afterwards.
And they gave him a water down.
They did indeed. But it was great. That's great to see. It shows how much respect I suppose they have for James. They play wholeheartedly for him. We played Clare, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they scored 4 goals. I know there was a change of goalkeeper after that, and the young Father Sheehy's guy, Darry English, came into the goals, and we didn't concede on Monday night, which would have been a big thing for James Woodlock and Conor O'Brien when they were getting ready for the game. But as I said, Ewan Murray, who is underage again next year, looks like a real star. The future, everything he did, he knows what he's doing when he gets the ball. He doesn't panic. He does the right thing the majority of the time, which is all you can expect from a 16-year-old playing in that environment.
And we're really looking forward to the under-20 Munster hurling final, 8 o'clock in the Gaelic grounds on this coming Friday night, Tip and Cork. It's going to be an almighty battle. It
sure will. I mean, 2 or 3 weeks ago we won quite easily on a Friday night again in Thurles. It was I think we won by 12 in the end. A real commanding performance. Got goals in the first half and second half. This under-20 team are really coming along nicely under Brendan Cummins, Paddy Stapleton, Thomas Costello and Fintan O'Connor. They have turned it around from their under-17 performances. So it'll be interesting, but that was the first loss that Ben O'Connor's Cork had taken, so it'll be interesting to see how they had a real gritty win over Clare in the semi-final last Friday night. They were behind coming into injury time and got a goal and a point finishing up to qualify for the Munster final. So that will really get them going. They wanted another crack at Tip. They're going to get it. It was fairly drawn out over the weekend about where that game was going to be on, so it was eventually settled on the Gaelic grounds for 8 o'clock on Friday. But it's certainly really looking forward to a couple of guys on that Tip team that you would hope to see in a blue and gold senior jersey in years to come. John?
Yeah, it was a great victory down there on Monday night for the Miners. I felt, I was at that match against Clare a couple of weeks ago inside in the stadium when Tip conceded the 4 goals. I think it was 4-11 to 19 points. And I felt when the final whistle blew, I said if they meet again, I think Tip will take them, because the concession of the goals that night was really basic errors, and that was all tightened up. There was a change of goalkeeper, and I was very confident going into the game in Limerick on Monday evening. With that team, and your man was missing there. He was a late young Ralph there for Clare. He started all right, but he was carrying an injury. A father there from McCarthy, but the Murphy, the fella that got the 3 goals against inside in Thurles, like, he was well marshalled the last night down there. I suppose the under-20s, as Mike said, they had a good victory over Cork there a couple of weeks ago, back in the stadium again, and going in, I was sort of said to myself that time, if they meet again, I wouldn't write off that Cork team.
That game is gone.
That game is gone, but I'm saying I just felt at the time after that, looking back on it, I said, I wouldn't write off that Cork team if we have to meet him again. And we are meeting him again in the final, and we got through to the final there. We lost out to Clare in that round 4 match there, but we going into that final round 5 game, we had enough in the tank, because Clare would have had to beat us by I think 7 or 8 points that night. They didn't. That's why we got through to the final. We're up against Cork, as I said, 8 o'clock throw-in in the Gaelic grounds, and the Gaelic grounds haven't been a bad old hunting ground for us for matches in under 20 or 21 against Cork, and let's hope that it continues, because that whole thing on Monday night gave the county a lift. It gave the followers there. There was 4,300 down there on Monday night now. A lot of Tip followers there, I have to say, and it was a big old boost to the morale of the county, put it that way, and a bit of a lift. And hopefully, a one on Friday night now could give the old county a lift again. And by God, we do need it heading into Thurles next Sunday.
Francis, final word to yourself. Maybe the under-20 effort is coming Friday night. We need another lift.
Yeah, we certainly do, and it's supposed to be a huge week to take 2 Munster titles. The chances below in the Gaelic grounds. I think it's going to be an awful lot tighter on Friday night, to be quite honest. I think Cork would certainly come back with a lot of revenge in their minds, and it can be often hard to beat a team twice in quick succession like that. So Tipperary, I suppose, they've been well prepared this year, and I suppose there was an awful lot of doubt over this team at the start, even a few weeks before the championship started, and Brendan Cummins and his side seem to have done a great job with this side. They've really got him going, the likes of Sinan Butler, Conor Martin, Darren McCarthy, fellas like that have really kind of hit the ground running this year and taken the game to the opposition. And I think it's great to see Tipperary teams really kind of forcing their own way in a game. And we've seen at times with this team that things can go wrong in a game, but they seem to find their way back into it. They might have a sluggish first half, but they finish off very well. Or you look at some of the games, like they've been well able to fight their way and get over that line, and that's probably a good habit to be bringing as well, for success. And some of these lads have, All-Ireland minor medals to their name as well, and they would hope to keep going again on Sunday. Like, it's a chance, or on Friday night, it's a chance to get to an All-Ireland final as well against Dublin or Offaly, and there's a huge carrot at stake.
There certainly is. Well, listen, we'll leave it there for this evening, guys. All I can do is just say again, huge congratulations to the minors and James Woodlock, and along with his backroom team, and we wish the very best of luck to Brendan Cummins and his backroom team, along with all his players, on this coming Friday night 8 p.m. in the Gaelic grounds.